Huda Sha'arawi.
Huda Sha'arawi was an Egyptian feminist. Many women benefited from Huda Sha'arawi's actions in Egypt. In the 1900s, women's rights were tragically different from men's. Huda triumphantly started many organizations and achieved bold movements for women's rights. She encouraged others to stand up for what they believe in decades later. She was born on June 23, 1879, into a wealthy family and died on December 12, 1947. Throughout her lifetime, Sha'arawi impacted Egyptian society greatly. Sha'arawi was born in Cairo and raised in the harem system, which kept women separate from men. The women in the harem were tragically forced to wear a veil at the time. Women could only interact with their husbands and close male relatives. Even though Sha'arawi received an education as a child, she felt jealous that her brother was offered more opportunities to learn. Huda once said, "I became depressed and began to neglect my studies, hating being a girl because it kept me from the education I sought. Later, being a female became a barrier between me and the freedom for which I yearned." As said in her book, Harem Years, Huda had a brother, Umar, 2 years younger. Growing up with him allowed her to note differences in the ways boys and girls were brought up. Boys were favored. They were given freer reign and were more indulged than girls. Because she was a woman, she had to do many things which men were not expected to do. At age 13, Sha'arawi was forced to marry so she would not disappoint her family and break their Arabic customs. She married her cousin Ali Sha'arawi, who was 26 years older than her. She was his second wife and refused to marry at first. She reluctantly gave in when her mother said, "Do you wish to disgrace the name of your father and destroy your poor mother who might not survive the shock of your refusal?" Sha'arawi was miserable during her marriage. Her husband, Ali Sha'arawi, committed himself to a monogamous marriage, which means having only one spouse, with his other wife, who was about to bear a child. Sha'arawi was very joyful at this, as it would end her misery. Huda and her husband spent 7 years apart from each other. Her husband spent time with his other wife, while Huda was able to experience new opportunities and advance her education. She was able to meet with feminists and discuss issues with the harem system. Huda felt as if being a female allowed no rights and that they were not giving the recognition they deserved. She wanted to change that. In Huda Sha'arawi's own words, "Men have singled out women of outstanding merit and put them on a pedestal to avoid recognizing the capabilities of all women. To represent a woman's true worth, Sha'arawi decided to break the expectations and law that women must follow." As an adult, Sha'arawi decided to bring women into public places for the first time. In 1900, she and her husband got back together. In 1908, Sha'arawi founded the largest anti-British movement. Huda also opened a school for girls in 1910, which focused on teaching academics rather than practical skills, which were taught to girls at the time. She was president of the Waftist Women's Central Committee. After her husband died, Huda became more interested in movements towards women's equality with men. Sha'arawi founded the Egyptian Feminist Union. Their main goal was to increase educational opportunities and reform personal statuses for women. The Egyptian Feminist Union is still active today. It was 1923 when Sha'arawi was at a Cairo train station, and she changed women's rights in Egypt forever. Huda cast off her hijab or veil in front of everyone. People were astonished that a woman could do such a thing, but this small action created a big impact. At first there was silence, but after that people began to clap, and other women began to remove their own veils. Years later, very few women still wore their veils. Today, that Cairo train station still is an important landmark for women to remember who originally helped them realize their worth and independence. Huda Sha'arawi's story relates to this year's National History Day theme, Triumph and Tragedy. It was tragic how women were saluted from men and forced to cover themselves because of their gender. Women were thought of as lower than men. People did not realize the full power and value of women. Huda's life is a clear representation of women in the Muslim world that have been fighting for their rights. It is because of feminists like Huda Sha'arawi that women are now standing up to get equality among genders. Huda wanted to make an impact and change the way women were treated. She was triumphant in getting other women to remove their own veils and discontinue the harem system by removing her own veil. Her success not only impacted Egyptians, but the rest of the world. Huda's story of her terrible life living in the harem and how she was able to overcome roadblocks inspires people all around. She left a critical legacy behind which continues to help people every day.